Welcome to the Malibu Guru podcast, where we talk all things PA-46. This is the place to hear from the owner-flown pilot community, to learn from vendors that support our marketplace, and to get better at piloting your PA-46. Whether you fly a PA-46, TBM, or King Air, or if you dream of doing that one day, this is the podcast for you. Now here's your host, Joe Casey.
All right, Joe Casey with Casey Aviation. I got a cool guy here with me, but it's a cool guy that I didn't get to fly with. We had a bunch of people here today for recurrent training with other instructors, but this is a guy that I intentionally pulled aside and said, man, can I put you on the podcast? Because I think he's got a neat story to tell, and he got to fly with Deanna in his JetPROP, and she put him through the ringers, and I wanted to put him through the ringers on the podcast. I've got David Dye with me. Welcome, David Dye, to the Malibu Guru podcast.
Hey, Joe, it's great to be here. And you described it perfectly. It was an intense but yet fun day with Deanna. I thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a bunch.
You know, with Deanna, when somebody comes to fly with me, like the person I flew with, a guy named Alex in his Meridian today, but it's one thing after the other. You know, you do this, you do that, you do the next thing, engine failure, more lever failure, crap, that thing broke on the panel and I have to do a approach with your standby attitude indicator, and crap, the gear wouldn't go down, and blah, blah, it's like a steady stream of stuff. But at the end, it's high tension. There's a lot going on, but at the end of it, you learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is overdue. I didn't get to fly with you or Deanna or anybody with Casey Aviation. I bought the airplane a year or so ago, and it just didn't work out from a scheduling standpoint. I've listened to so many of the podcasts. I've gone through the ground school on the website twice. And so, to actually put my eyes on Joe and Deanna Casey and Eric at lunch today was after, literally now 18 to 20 months, but between finding the aircraft, buying the aircraft, and now today, it was great to finally meet you in person.
It's kind of fun because when I hear other people on other podcasts or other video type stuff, and people I listen to, and that listen to content that I like, and that's not aviation maybe, but I get to meet them, and when they talk, they have a voice. I instantly recognize the voice, and it's probably the same with you. Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually, and that kind of started out in an interesting way for me this morning. I was coming in. I flew this morning from my home base in Alabama here to Lufkin, and I was on the downwind, and I had been listening for 20 minutes or so, and I hadn't heard any traffic, and then I hear a King Air taxiing out. And so I decided, well, I'll go ahead and let him know I'm on the downwind. I don't know if he knows I'm here. So, I made a call, and then the response I hear back is, hey, I know that aircraft. And I instantly recognized the voice at that point, and which was great. And then I realized that as I was coming into land, and I was, like probably most people, at least I hope, they're a little bit nervous and not too nervous, but a little bit nervous, keyed up for a recurrent training day like today. And I'm like, well, I'm beginning the day with a little pressure because Joe Casey's sitting there looking straight out the windshield of a King Air watching me land.
Hey, let me tell you, I was willing to sign you off. I mean, that's what I said. I mean, you were on center line. It was a beautiful landing. I said, hey, you're recurrent signed off. You're good.
Yeah, and that was actually the most nervous I got all day. I kind of relaxed from there. Deanna was intense but great. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I do want to hear about how you got the JetPROP, because you've had it for a year. We helped you get that JetPROP. We were your buyer agent as you went down that road. And I do want to get into that, but let's start with you back in the early parts of aviation. When did you first look to the sky and say, you know what, I think I could fly?
Yeah. And, I think this is a similar story to a lot of people, and certainly some of the ones that I've heard on your podcast myself. And that's as a kid growing up, I thought, I'd love to be a pilot someday. What do you want to be when you grow up? I never said, I want to be an airline pilot, but that was certainly one of the 4 or 5 or 6 things that I would maybe mention or put down on a sheet of paper in school. And it just never happened. Like for a lot of other people, I ended up, going to school, getting a job out of college, kind of a normal sort of job in business. But I talked about it. I think I must have talked about it more than I thought I did, because for Christmas one year when I was, a couple years into work, 23 years old, I was an assistant manager of an implementation team at our company. And the team gave me an introductory flight lesson for Christmas.
Really?
And so I went and took the introductory flight lesson, and that was it. I went into credit card debt, and
you sold the farm to, I'm going to learn how to fly, man.
Yeah. So I got my private in took about 6 months. As I was finishing my private, I met my wife. And I remember she helped me study for the written test.
She helped you pay off the credit card?
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. So I flew a fair amount, but quickly started having kids, et cetera, like literally basically right away. And I remember applying for life insurance because I thought that was a responsible thing to do, and getting a letter in the mail saying that I was denied because I was a low-time pilot. And at that point I just decided it was time to put it up for a while and hope that I would do it again at a later stage of my life. So that's exactly what I did. Raised some kids, and I think it was 11 or 12 years later that I finally decided, okay, I'm ready to pick it back up again. And I had decided while I wasn't flying that in the Mobile, Alabama area, which is where I live, I didn't want to fly anymore as a private pilot. I wanted my instrument rating. So I decided that if I ever pick it back up again, I'm going to go straight to get my instrument rating before I put anybody in the plane with me. So that's exactly what I did when I went back to it. So
the question, I guess, how old were you when you picked back up aviation and said, I'm going to jump back in this game? And how old were you?
I was 36 years old when I picked it back up. So it was 2006.
Yeah. And at 36 years old, not much flight time, hardly at all. And in other words, at 36, you were successful otherwise in business. Your career was going. This isn't like you're picking up another career, but this is, hey, I'm going to pick up this skill, this ability to go flying. I finally have enough money. I have enough time. Maybe kids are getting old enough where, I can get out of the house and go do this. And you made it happen. That's at 36. Tough, easy, hard?
I think I'll say I was so dedicated to it that I worked to make it easy. I was at a point, from a career standpoint where I could do it, family standpoint where I could do it. And so, sure, to fly multiple times a week when you have, let's see, at the time I had, 4 kids. So 4 kids was tough, but, supportive family, supportive wife.
Yeah, okay, let me go down that road real quick. There's going to be a softball punt coming across the plate. Hit it hard, okay?
Okay.
Tell me about your wife and how she was supportive of this whole endeavor.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. She was supportive when we were 22, 23 years old, incredibly supportive. Supportive of a decision to stop. I think she was a little nervous about it, with a low-time pilot, but then supportive. It took a little guts for me to come to her one day and say, you know what, I'm ready to fly again. And I kind of, I probably false started a couple times before I finally got the guts to do it. And she looks right at me and she said, I've known this is coming for a long time. I'm absolutely in favor of it. I was a road biker at the time as well. It was kind of my hobby, was getting out on those, road bikes. And she said, I only have one ask, and that's that there's only one way you can kill yourself at a time. So if you'll stop road biking, you can fly. And of course, I don't necessarily believe that flying is a way you can. Obviously it is, just like anything else, driving a car, anything else. But so I thought, that's fair. So I stopped doing the road bike thing and just.
You sold what kind of bike?
Oh gosh,
was it a Goldwing or was it a Harley?
It wasn't a motorcycle. It was an actual, like a.
So you were a bike biker, like you
biker.
pedaled, you sweated, you did all that.
Yes, absolutely. You'd go out and ride on the highways, and it's it can be dangerous. You hear the stories, but so that was the trade-off. Was that it was an easy trade-off for me because I'm not so sure how much I love that, but I certainly love flying.
I used to bike a bunch, but my thing was get on the bike and go 1 hour and see if I could go 20 miles in that 1 hour. That was just my thing.
That's
this was a long time ago. I was doing pretty good. And I had a pretty decent road bike, but I will tell you, we have an employee that works for us now that about 5-10 years ago, something like that, was hit by a car while he was biking. And it just about killed him. And still to this day, he has trouble. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you get hit by a bike. If you're on a bike, you get hit by a car, you're going to lose that fight. Yeah. And there is something, I am a biker. I like it. But let me just tell you, the same approach to flying, flying's not safe. Flying's only safe to the degree that the person in the left front seat makes it so.
Sure.
Biking's sort of the same way in the sense that you can be a defensive biker. If you want to get on a bike and go down an interstate or go down a really busy road with no shoulder, you're asking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And I think there's certain dependencies in both, but in aviation, I feel like you're more in control because even if you're doing all the right things on a bike, if somebody comes up behind you in a pickup truck and mows you over, there's nothing you can do about it. You can hear it coming, but you don't have eyes in the back of your head.
You know, I used to fly Black Hawk and Apache helicopters. This is going to sound crazy, but I've said this before and it comes up. Yeah, I think it's true that Army aviation pilots are a lot like bull riders. And what I mean by that, with one big exception, that meaning that they like, as you're flying an Army helicopter, you're flying MVGs at, nap of the earth, low level, nighttime, sling loading a howitzer. If you're a Black Hawk guy with, a 6-ship formation, going to some hot LZ. Okay. That's real. You know what I'm saying? That's right. A bull rider doing the same thing in the sense that high risk, got to know what you're doing. There's technique. There's other people on the team. If a bull rider wins, it's not just the bull rider, somebody driving the truck and doing a whole bunch of other things. But the difference is as Army helicopter pilot is that you have a machine. You are, the machine will talk to you in the sense of, they'll let you know when something's about to go wrong, usually. And you're dealing with weather and other things, but you're kind of in control. When you're a bull rider, you don't know what's between your legs, and you kind of know whether this bull generally goes left and then he swings right or whatever. But if you're a bike rider, and you're out there, you don't know who the enemy is. It could be a person driving down the highway texting. It could be somebody going just too fast because they go too fast, and it could be. Any number of things, but every time that happens, every time there's a crash with a bike, you're going to lose. And the only thing you can do is drive defensively. And or if you're going to ride a bike, I'm all for it. I love it. I think it's great. But you choose your roads, you choose your times, you choose your partners. Sometimes you get 4 or 5 people in a pack, and it's a little safer. In other words, you don't. Riding a bike on an American road has got an element of danger to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly does. And, again, I like your analogy about the equipment. With the airplane, the bull might lean 10 left and then go right and, 9 days out of 10, but it's on that one day.
Story about about that flight instructor we were talking about earlier.
Okay. So, so I get my instrument rating when I get back into flying, and the instructor that I had during that time was, he was probably in his young 70s, let's say, kind of a legendary instructor, charter pilot in the Mobile, Alabama area named Hugh Richards. Tough, rough guy on the exterior, soft on the interior, and just an absolutely phenomenal instructor. And I still hear him in my head all the time on every flight with something. And I'm sure and
before you even go on, God bless that man. That's the kind of guy I want to be. Meaning, I want to be the guy that people are thinking, 20 years after I'm dead, I want people to be able to say, man, I still hear what that cat said to me.
Yeah. And so when it came time to buy an airplane, I was thinking about a lot of different things. And between the things I was thinking about, I want to be positive here and not talk negatively about any airplanes. But, between the options that I had, he said, buy a Beechcraft, buy a Bonanza. And every time I'd kind of lean somewhere, he'd say, just between the options that I had, he said, turbine wasn't an option at that point in time. He said, get a Bonanza. So I found a B-36 TC. This is in 2008, and bought the airplane and did my initial training with him. My insurance required hours, and was starting to feel comfortable with the airplane and beginning to take passengers on the airplane. I hadn't had it 2 months, and my wife died suddenly. Just completely, a heart condition deal, 40 years old. And so at that point, a month or so after all that, I hadn't, obviously for a period of time, didn't even think about flying. But I told a couple of people, that I was going to sell the airplane because I got 4 kids, and I didn't know if it was a good idea to keep flying or not, et cetera. And so he calls me on the this is Hugh, the instructor, calls me on the phone one day and said, David, I hear you're thinking about selling the airplane. I was like, yeah, I'm just not sure it's a good idea. He said, do me a favor, please. He said, don't sell the airplane. Let's give it another couple of weeks. One day you're going to feel like flying. Just give me a call. Let's go flying. So that's exactly what I did. A few weeks later, I called him. I said, let's go flying. We went flying. had a nice flight, came down on the ground, and as we finished, got out of the airplane, he looked me dead in the eye and he said, "Here's the deal. You're not selling your airplane. And anytime you want to go flying, you're going to call me up and I'm going to fly with you and you're not going to pay me anything. It can be for business. It can be for pleasure. It can be for anything. And that's our deal from now on." I looked at him. I said, he said, "No, we're not. This is non-negotiable." So that's what I did for a year or two, both for work and for pleasure. I just took him with me everywhere. I never paid him a dime.
Is that guy still alive?
No, he passed away, I'm going to say 2019, I think, in the fall of 2019. And
What an absolute gem of a local aviation hero. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably underselling it.
Yeah. In that I wouldn't be flying today, if it wasn't for him. So yeah. But back to kind of the aviation history is I had that Bonanza for 15 years, and absolutely loved it. My family went everywhere with it. After 11 years of being single, I found another. I've been out lucky twice. I've outkicked my coverage twice in life. I found another lovely woman, and I'm remarried. But it was funny, date number 3 or 4. I said to her, I was like, what would you think about flying to Apalachicola and going to get some oysters and coming back? I don't know how sure you feel about flying. You don't have to. And she said, well, I kind of feel like I kind of knew in advance that was part of the deal. So I'm
Okay.
great with it. Yeah.
All right. So I got 3 things. You just dumped a lot on the table. Now I get to talk about all of that. Number one, golly bum, I'm so sorry about your first wife. But not only that, but I will say I've been through probably 4 or 5 really deep emotional events in my life that I'm reasonably open about talking about in a private session. Meaning I'm not going to shout them from this microphone. As far as there'll be a day I might, but let me just tell you what you did right and what he talked to you. When you got a death, a divorce, a bankruptcy, a child that has gone completely sideways, a major illness, something that takes that your business that is just in the tank, something just horrible that occurs. You don't do anything for 6 months. You don't change your bank accounts. You don't make a big gigantic decision. And so, because you're going to look through the lens of grief. And when you look through the lens of grief, you just don't make a big gigantic decision. I can't tell you how many times, been many times that a wife often or a spouse will call me because her husband, aircraft owner, passed away, lost medical, something happened that usually has passed away, and will call me up and say, I need you to come sell the airplane, and I need you to come deal with this. And usually it gives me a chance to be able to speak into their life from an emotional side. We usually talk a little bit about money, and if it's not, like if she doesn't need the money, if she's good to go, I usually say, why don't you wait just a little bit, and we'll just see I'll sell it to you for you tomorrow if you want, but why don't you wait just a little bit and see where this goes. And oftentimes the waiting is good. There's something that comes away from that. It's just when you're in that place, it's not a good time to make a big gigantic decisions. Now sometimes the lady's like, I'm not a pilot and I don't have anywhere to go anymore. Sell the airplane and turn that thing into money for me. And I bet I don't know how many, certainly once a year, 20, 25, 30 times that this has happened to me, where the wife will call, and those are always special times in the sense that you get to walk beside a grieving person. And so I've walked beside some people, but I don't think I did it as good as this guy. What's his name?
His name's Hugh Richards.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was an absolute, like I said, hard on the outside, gem on the inside. And, obviously meant the world to me and a lot of other pilots in the Mobile, Alabama area. Actually, it's one of those people that everybody has a story with him.
Yeah. And then the next thing is I own a Bonanza. Bonanzas are absolutely one of the best airplanes on the planet. I mean, to be brutally honest, I wish that Beechcraft made a pressurized single of the same size as a Piper. And because if it was, it'd be a wonderfully built airplane that is absolutely incredible, built like a tank. We have like a November 35 Bonanza, and it is our Ford F-150. And golly bum, we fly that thing 250 hours a year between events, and between everybody in my company that's flying this thing. It's our go-to vehicle to go just about anywhere. And I think the Bonanza is just one of the best airplanes out there. And so there's that. And then the last one is, hey, way to go, man. You took your wife before you got serious on her and said, we're going on a flight. That's great. And bless her, too, because she was able to, she said, I assume the flight went well.
Yeah, and now she flies with me all the time and loves it. Usually listens to a little yacht rock on XM radio and falls asleep. And, she's a wonderful, wonderful passenger. It's love flying with her.
Okay, so we got to go here. We got to go here now because it's all laid out in front of me. What does your wife think about the JetPROP as compared to what you had before?
Yeah, she liked the Bonanza as well, but kind of without me prompting her, she just said, I feel more comfortable when I arrive at the destination.
Pressurization?
The pressurization. Just not dehydrated. Don't have a slight headache. We take a lot of long flights from Faro. We have a kid in Austin, Texas. We have one in Dallas for a while. No one in Nashville. We have one in Houston now. And in the Bonanza, that was a lot of 2 to 3 hour, 2 hour, 45 minute, 3 hour, 15-minute flights with a headwind to Austin at 16,000 feet with a cannula in your nose. Both of us, and you arrive exhausted. And now you arrive ready to go.
You arrive having taken a nice nap. All right, so you flew around the Bonanza for a long time, going all over the place. You've got do you own the company?
I do not own the company. No. I'm the chief operating officer of the company, and I'm on the board of the company. But I've been there for 34 years, and it's been a great company. There were 60 employees when I started. There's about 3,500 now.
Yeah, so we're talking about cool. But you're able to use the airplane for business type trips to be able to go places, correct?
Yeah, a good part of what we do is to provide technology for small and rural community hospitals. So the plane can come in handy to make visits to some of those places. I've been in Nebraska with it recently. I've been in Tennessee with it recently. I was in Texas with it last week. So I do use it for work sometimes. Sometimes it's better to go with Delta depending on the situation. But it's ideal for that, and it's ideal for the travel that I like to do to either visit children or go play golf or go to a nice SEC football game or that type of thing.
Right, exactly. Okay, which is absolutely fantastic. Matter of fact, it sounds like it has increased your capability and therefore has increased your utility because you're able to go places and go further and go better and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, and I've heard this, I think, from a couple other guests on your podcast before, but I traditionally had flown an average of 110 to 120 hours a year in the Bonanza. And I thought I'd be pressed to fly the same amount because the airplane goes a little faster, but I, flew almost 170 hours this year. So I think it's just simply because, it's more capable, certainly. And then I'm just more excited about, the idea of going to Nashville and playing golf with a buddy and flying back is more palpable now than it was before.
Yeah, it's a doable situation. Okay, so you woke up, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago or something like that, somewhere in that time frame, and said, I really need to move up from this Bonanza. I need to do this. And you're a guy that I can tell the crowd right here. This dude does homework. He has done his research. How'd you zone in on the JetPROP?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. As I entered I guess I was 52 when I really started thinking about it, and 53 when I started to act on it. I'm 54 now. I was just tired of the cannulas and knew about the reliability of a piston. You get more conservative as you get older and you start thinking about risks more. And I thought, what, for the last, let's say hypothetically, I fly to some age between 70 and 75, so I got 16, 17, 18, 20 hours left of flying. So I'd rather do it with a turbine than a piston if I can figure out how to pay for it. Was my premise. So I probably, like most people, started doing the research out there on Google. And I knew about the Meridian, had heard the term JetPROP, Golden Eagle, the turbine Bonanza, et cetera. But I really kind of quickly zoned in, I think because of the price. And then I think the first thing I found was your article, either so you're thinking about flying a JetPROP or so you're thinking about flying a Meridian, and read it. And one of the articles mentioned that there was another article for the other airplane. And so I read both of those, and that's how I found Casey Aviation and Joe Casey. And so went to your website, read everything I could read, read all watched all the free videos that were out there, and called you, got you on the phone, and said,
Was I nice?
We're here now, right? Extremely, and thought, and I knew I needed I'd used a broker buyer when I got my Bonanza, Carolina Aircraft, great people there, and they sold my Bonanza as well, and so I knew I didn't want to go on this journey by myself. So I was pleased when I went to the website to see that those were the services that you offered. But so I got you on the phone. I said, I think I'm down to JetPROP and Meridian. I know you get this all the time, and I know you're going to ask me what kind of pilot are you and what kind of car do you like to drive and that sort of thing. But I had pretty much decided before I talked to you that I was a JetPROP guy. Just the climb rate, I wanted the nose baggage, and I wanted to burn less fuel. And I knew it's I don't want to say more difficult to fly. There's more buttons to push and more things to think about, the fuel system, et cetera. I'm one of those pilots that's just constantly, tinkering with stuff the whole time I'm flying anyway. I'm never listening to the radio or reading the newspaper. I'm thinking, what's next? What's next? What's the nearest airport? So I wasn't intimidated by the idea of more with jet. I was intimidated about the idea of flying a turbine, I think, like probably anybody is. But so I had pretty much decided, and then after talking to you, I was convinced I wanted to do a JetPROP, and you hooked me up with Eric Earl here, who then immediately we went to work on trying to find me a JetPROP.
Okay, so the little shout out to Eric Earl. How'd it work? I think the answer is favorable. I think it's okay. Eric go to work for you?
Yeah, he was phenomenal, and I'm sure he's used to this, and I'm sending him links from controller and .com, et cetera, but at the same time, knowing that the possibility exists, how I got my Bonanza, was that we might stumble on because of your Casey Aviation's knowledge of aircraft before they hit the websites and are officially on the market, and so he kept me somewhat patient because at this point I'm without an aircraft. At this point I'd sold the Bonanza and I'm without an aircraft, and so I'm itchy, but of course I want to make sure we get the right airplane. And sure enough, maybe after 2 weeks, he found an aircraft up in the Idaho area that was exactly what I wanted. It was a Dash 35, which I had decided that he presented a couple Dash 34s and a couple Dash 21s, but I wanted a Dash 35. He found one. It had amazing avionics, the G500 TXI and the 750 TXI with the 650 TXI backup, G600 autopilot. Had the right amount of hours on it, and so it was the perfect airplane, and we were able to make a deal.
That's awesome. Yeah, Eric. Eric obviously works for us. We love Eric. We think he's just wonderful. But he's also a cool guy in the sense that he's Army Reserve. He's a company commander. He's got a couple hundred people under his command there. He juggles a bunch of balls as far as all that. But he's really good at juggling. And one of the things that he just loves to do is hunt down that airplane that somebody else couldn't find. And and that's kind of a fun thing. And one of the things that people come to us for buyer agent services is because they do want to be able to find an airplane that's not on controller or trade-a-plane. And by the way, we love trade-a-plane way more than controller. And trade-a-plane's like phenomenal to us. It's not as it used to be. That trade-a-plane was the only place to go, and you get your yellow magazine, and then they kind of got surpassed by controller because trade-a-plane rested on their laurels and thought that everybody was going to stay with paper the rest of their life and didn't. But so now trade-a-plane's coming back, and we're really excited about them. But anyway, the point, if you can find an airplane that's not on trade-a-plane, not on controller, on the underground market, sometimes you end up with a really good airplane. And that's one of the things that we just absolutely love to do. Okay, so Eric found you an airplane, and then you took the airplane to Kevin Meade. Is that what you did?
Yeah, on Eric's recommendation, that I think it had been 8 months since annual, and he said, obviously we need to get a pre-buy, but let's go ahead and do an annual with the pre-buy, and I recommend Meade. And Eric made the call, and we had to wait a little longer than I wanted to, but they were great and fit us in, And so, yeah, there was a few squawks, of course, as there would be in any situation like that, but it was a relatively clean situation. And a couple weeks later, Meade was phenomenal to deal with, as the buyer. And the airplane had been there. The seller had used me on a couple of, let's say I think he'd owned it for 7 or 8 years and had used me on a couple of occasions, a long trip from Idaho. But and so when I went to pick up the airplane and do my initial training, the first couple of flights there were just a few squawks, and we would taxi it back in, and it would either be Ed or Kevin himself that would meet us out there and come out and say, how was it? What do you have? And, a couple of times Kevin himself was underneath the airplane, just, tinkering with we had a little gear warning situation, and he was under the right main, tinkering with that. It was just an amazing service from them.
Let me just say, and we have a maintenance shop now. We're brand new. I mean, we're at the recording of this, we're 2 weeks into owning a maintenance shop. Let me just simply say, there are a bunch of other good maintenance shops out there in the world. But Kevin Mead and Ed Rowe with Mead Aviation, that is one. It's either one of the best or the best. I mean, they're just so good there. I have trusted Kevin for 20 years, and we are going to use Kevin. We're going to continue to lean on him. When I called up Kevin and told him we were opening up a maintenance shop, and he basically said, great, because when you're the best at something, it's not a competitive stance. And so I wanted this to come out in our podcast, because I think Kevin Mead's fantastic. I think he's got the best PA-46 shop today on the planet. And Ed Rowe is fantastic, and they got he's assembled a team of a bunch of good guys. Anyway, we just think they're absolutely wonderful. And I hope people listen to this will be able to hear of the good vendors that are out there in this marketplace. That's one of them right there. Kevin Mead and Ed Rowe and Mead Aviation. They're just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. With my limited experience, I obviously don't have near as much as you with them, but it's been fantastic. Matter of fact, when I left the last day of initial, Ed met me out there and said, we'd love to do your annual next year. And I said, absolutely. And, by the time I got home, I had a calendar invite. So I accepted that calendar invite, and it's just been sitting there for a year, and it's going up on Sunday. So it's time.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to just come back to this point, or at least underscore or highlight it. For a Bonanza guy that flew Bonanza for 12 years, moving from a Bonanza to a JetPROP, there were probably some hurdles and things along the way. But for a guy that's a year into it, you just came back for recurrent training, you're about to go put your airplane into annual at Mead Aviation, you're a year into it. Is there any chance you would go back? Meaning, did you make a good decision? Are you happy where you're at?
Yeah, the only way I'd go back is if I had to, for financial reasons or whatever, or my mission changed. But theoretically, no, there's no reason that I would go back. I absolutely love the Bonanza, shed a tear when I sold it. But I certainly wouldn't go. I haven't had a single problem. And I have my father who loves to talk flying with me, 88 years old. He's really into it. He would scour the internet with me to look for JetPROPs. He kind of got into the whole thing as well. And he's said to me multiple times, he's like, you haven't any trouble with this airplane. It seemed like with the Bonanza that you were always having to, fly it across the bay to get something, to oil change or, something. And it's a great airplane, but he goes, you haven't had a single problem. It's true. For a year, I really haven't had a problem. Not one. I mean, there's little tweaks here and there, but nothing that even required going to a maintenance shop.
Yeah, the dispatch reliability of a JetPROP. Most JetPROP pilots will go annual to annual without even pulling the hood off the airplane, and I just think that's a wonderful testament.
Yeah, absolutely. I again, that's something I'd heard, read a little bit and heard on some of your podcasts, and I was, knock on wood, I certainly hope this is the case for me, and at least year one it has been.
Yeah. David Dye, JetPROP owner, former Bonanza owner, guy who has a cool story along the way with, sounds like you had some really cool people with your flight instructor, your dad. I don't know. It just sounds like you're doing aviation real well over there in Fairhope, Alabama. By the way, I was at your airport about, a month ago. That's a cool little airport. Anyway, it sounds like you're doing aviation really, really good. And I hope this next year flying the JetPROP goes really well for you. My forecast is that it really will.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's been this day's exceeded my expectations, which was tough because I've been looking forward to it for a long time. As I said, it was great to meet you, Deanna, Eric, finally. We got to all meet up in Tyler, Texas today and have lunch while you were doing your training and we were doing ours. And I can't say enough about the training that I've received from Deanna today. It was, she kept it, I don't know how you can say this kind of antonym, light but intense at the same time, very focused, but I never felt uncomfortable, and only, that slightly nervous thing that you kind of get when you're doing training of any kind. But it's been a wonderful day, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, let me just tell you, Deanna's fabulous, and obviously I'm biased as could be, but anyway, it's good to hear that report. David Dye, thank you for showing up for the Malibu Guru podcast, and thank you for just joining our team in whatever way we can. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Malibu Guru podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss a new episode. And we would love to get your 5-star reviews. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our brand new YouTube channel. We look forward to bringing you another great episode next week. We'll see you then.